die?
I don't know if anybody's really prepared to die. How could anybody kill those babies? And I did not murder my children.
Darly Routier was found guilty of the murder of her son Damon and is presently on death row, awaiting execution through lethal injection. The tragic incident occurred on June 6, 1996, when 2 of her 3 children, Damon and Devon, were fatally stabbed in their home. Routier faced allegations of being responsible for both deaths, yet she was specifically charged and tried for the murder of Damon, the younger of the 2 boys who lost their lives. Darly was born in Altoona, Pennsylvania, on January 4, 1970, as the eldest child of Darly and Larry Peck. She enjoyed a nurturing upbringing until the age of 7, when her parents' divorce shattered the sense of domestic stability she had known. A year later, her mother married Dennis Stoll, making a new chapter for Darly as the family relocated to the markedly different environment of Lubbock, Texas. Despite the upheaval, Darly and her siblings, 2 biological and 2 stepsisters, maintained a strong bond, supporting each other through the challenges of adjusting to new hometowns and schools. The most challenging aspect of their young lives stemmed from their parents' constant conflicts, which occasionally escalated into violence. As the Stoll's marriage dissolved, Darly's mother found herself once more in search of a partner, leaving Darly and her sisters without a consistent father figure. Despite her new environment, Darly blossomed from a quiet cocoon into a flowering, somewhat over-showy adolescent, according to her classmates. She drew the attention of boys, one of whom was Damon Routier. He and Mama Darly were busboys at a Western Sizzler restaurant when he was a teenager. The mother thought that her eldest daughter would find him attractive and intelligent, as he was a communicative youngster with high aspirations for the future. She introduced the 2 young people, acting as a matchmaker, and from all accounts, it was love at first sight for both of them. The 3'3", hard-faced Lubbock beauty with large eyes caught the attention of the tall, dark-haired boy with wavy hair. They were in high school together and remained in touch after Darren, who was 2 years her senior, left to attend a technical college in Dallas. At Darren's farewell party, something prescient was said about what was to follow. There, a friend of Darly's said she displayed cunning and possessive side beneath her outward charm. Darly exited the gathering, irritated that she was not receiving enough attention. Subsequently, she returned in a panic, accusing someone of trying to essay her. She got exactly the attention she wanted from her trick. Following her high school graduation, Darly moved to Dallas to live with her boyfriend, who had been employed as a technician at a computer chip manufacturer. After accepting a position at the same company, the couple saved money together while living together until they were married in August 1988. The newlyweds enjoyed an opulent honeymoon in Jamaica. After moving back to Texas, the couple lived in an apartment near Darren's workplace in Garland, where they initially studied the computer chip industry, a rapidly expanding sector. They moved to a tiny row-let house within the year. Here, Darren founded and ran TestNet, a home-based business that evaluated computer circuit boards. On June 14, 1989, a healthy boy named Devon Rush became their first child. On February 19, 1991, another son, Damon Christian, was born. With 2 kids and a home business that expanded so quickly that the proprietors had to purchase space in a fancy office building, the Routier's life appeared to be living up to the ideal of the modern American family. Their business had brought them a small fortune by 1992. The young couple, who wanted to live up to their status, had a home built in Rowlett's wealthy Dull Rock Heights addition, which is close to Lake Ray Hubbard. This affluent community of business people boasted happy families and streets devoid of crime. The $130,000 two-story Georgian-style home has a running fountain on the front yard, a classic porch and colonial shutters, giving it the appearance of a little mansion. The family's shiny new Jaguar, parked in a circle driveway, seemed a fitting addition to their new existence. Darly felt satisfied. She also lived to enjoy the wonderful times with her 2 children and was an excellent mother to them. Their home was the most decorated for Christmas, had the most goblins ever seen in a window for Halloween, and had the biggest and tastiest turkey ever prepared for Thanksgiving. Darlie held beautiful birthday parties for the kids, inviting peers over for a fun-filled afternoon in their expansive recreation area. Some who knew Darlie, however, assert that she had a different side to her that enjoyed to be the center of attention. She was a great fan of impression and materialism, often to the point of absurdity. She chose size EE breast implants just like the considerate woman in Playboy and Penthouse when she made that decision. When she bought clothes, she wore skimpy attire to attract attention from spectators when she went out for a night of dancing. Her outfit expenses soared. Critics of Darlie claimed that her desire to be the most flamboyant and extravagant person in the world eventually surpassed everything else in her life, even her kids. The neighbors were upset that Damon and Devon, who were not much older than toddlers, were left alone. When she did attend to them, she frequently gave off the impression that it upset her to have to spend the time. Her tolerance for them grew thin. The causes of domestic issues came to light. Attendees of a Christmas celebration observed in silence as Darlie and Darren got into a heated argument about Darlie dancing too much with another man. Rumors circulated that both partners were having extramarital affairs. However, the couple persisted in their masquerade of constant buying. They purchased a spot at the pier at the upscale Lake Ray Hubbard Marina so they could board the 27-foot cabin cruise. When Darlie became pregnant early in 1995, friends who knew about their issues were relieved because they believed that the new baby would bring the couple's love back to life. On October 18, 1995, Drake was born, but the mother experienced postpartum depression. Mood fluctuations brought out dark rages and abrupt tempers. The fact that their funds did not support the lavish lifestyle Darlie and Darren had become accustomed to, despite strong business gains from Tesneck, did not help the situation. Suddenly, ends did not meet. Unable to lose the weight she had gained from her previous pregnancy, Darlie became angrier and more resentful. She threw away her ineffective diet pills. Knowing he would strike her tender spot, Darren would remind her of this fact whenever they fought. Their financial problems grew worse, cost-cutting efforts were disregarded, and spending sprees intensified. Their peace of mind suffered greatly as a result. Tesneck was losing money, and Darren was unable to give himself the necessary pay or to provide Darlie any compensation at all for handling the books, a task that she had given up on during her depressive episode. They were besieged by creditors who demanded unpaid bills. Their bank turned down a $5,000 loan that they really needed on Saturday, June 1st. Darlie kept a diary on and off. She would sometimes take care of it every day, then take extended sabbaticals. "I hope you will forgive me for what I am about to do, Devon, Damon, and Drake," she wrote on May 3, 1996, as she considered taking her own life. "I just don't have the strength to fight the battle I've been fighting for so long in my life. I want all three of you to be well and happy, because I love you all more than anything in this world, and I don't want you to look at me and see a miserable person every time." As she was writing, Darren spotted the tears welling up in her eyes and stopped her. She broke down and admitted to having horrible suicidal thoughts that had been racing through her head. They chatted into the afternoon while he held her. She had calmed down by the end of the talk, and they fell in love with each other again for an afternoon. On June 6, 1996, Darly Routier was resting in the family's downstairs living area alongside her two children, Damon, 5 years old, and Devon, 6 years old, who were sleeping on the floor. Darlie drifted off while watching television, with both the TV and its sound still on, a fact corroborated by lead detective Jimmy Patterson's testimony during her bond hearing. Meanwhile, Darlie's husband Darren was asleep upstairs in the main bedroom with their youngest son Drake. It was during this time that a brutal attack unfolded, resulting in the stabbing of the children and the slashing of Darlie's arm and throat.
911, what is your emergency? Ma'am? What? Who did? Hang on. Hang on, ma'am. I got medical emergency. 681 Eagle Drive. trying to get an ambulance to you. Hang on a minute. My babies are dying. What's going on, ma'am? Oh, my God. I know medical emergency 580 Celtic Linda Vista and Willowbrook. Attention 901 medical emergency. Maybe possible stabbing 5801 Eagle Drive by 238 Celtic Linda Vista and Willowbrook. Coming out 232. Stand by, car flash. Hey. Oh my God. EMS 44601 Eagle Drive 5801 Eagle Drive. The circuit people on the phone. Hold on. Child has been stabbed. Ma'am, I need you to calm down and talk to me. What? 1501 Eagle? Ma'am, listen to me. I need you to... Oh my God. Can you take the radio clip? Ma'am, I need you to talk to me. Ma'am, I can't understand you. You're going to have to slow down, calm down, and talk to me. What is going on? Ma'am, who's there with you? Ma'am, is there anybody in the house besides you and your children? Okay, how many little boys? Is it 2 boys? Okay, listen to me. Calm down. Go ahead. 5801 Eagle Drive, 5801 Eagle Drive. It's going to be a stabbing. When are they going to be here? Ma'am, they're on their way. Ma'am, how old are your boys? What? How old are your boys? No. Okay. Oh my God! Oh my God! Calm down, can you? Your name's Darlie? Should I put that down? There's nobody in your head. You don't know who this is? There's a knife. Don't touch anything. Okay, ma'am, listen. There's a police officer. Your front door. Is your front door unlocked? Okay. Okay, is 82 out on Eagle? Okay, listen, ma'am. You need to let the officers in the front door, okay? What? Ma'am? You need to let the police officers in the front door. Okay, it's all right. It's okay. Ma'am, hang on a second. We walked in here and did it, Dan. Okay, ma'am.
Darlie later recounted to the police that she awoke to the presence of an intruder within her home. The intruder swiftly fled through the utility room into the garage. Upon their arrival, responding officers noted that one of the sizable windows in the garage was open, with the screen visibly cut. Upon realizing the intrusion, Darlie pursued the unknown man to the utility room, where she claimed he dropped a knife onto the floor, prompting her to pick it up. This response seemed reasonable given that Darlie had been unarmed prior to this encounter. However, her action of retrieving the knife led to skepticism from both law enforcement and prosecutors regarding her account of an intruder. This doubt intensified when, after being advised by the police dispatcher not to disturb any potential evidence, Darlie admitted to already handling the knife. Recognizing the implications of her actions, Darlie realized that picking up the knife may have compromised any fingerprint evidence that could have been gathered. Darlie's call to the police lasted nearly 6 minutes, beginning around 2:30 a.m. During this time, Darren's voice can be heard within the first 30 seconds of the call, and Officer Waddle, the first responder, is also audible. Darlie expressed concern about the delay in the ambulance's arrival and was instructed by the officer at the scene to sit down, contradicting his claim of requesting her assistance multiple times for the boys. Darren testified during the bond hearing and trial that early in the call, Darlie went to the kitchen to retrieve towels for the boys. Subsequently, a bloodied towel was discovered near Devon, a point discussed during the trial when Darlie's defense questioned Officer Main. Main also testified about gathering 2 towels from the hallway, which were combined and placed into one evidence bag. The discovery of bloody towels in the Routier residence corroborated Darren and Darlie's assertions regarding their actions before the police arrived. Patterson conceded during the bond hearing that he didn't directly inquire whether she had been near the sink or wet towels there. He also confirmed that the towels were found in the kitchen, stored in a drawer near the sink. Officer Waddle, testifying during the bond hearing, stated that Darlie didn't mention going to the kitchen sink, though he also admitted to never asking her about it. Officer Walling arrived shortly after Officer Waddell. Prior to Walling's arrival, Waddell remained stationed in one area within the home and didn't inspect the garage to check for any potential intruder. He also didn't administer first aid to the victims. Despite this, Waddell testified that upon his arrival, Damon was still alive, lying face down on the carpet, making attempts to move and gasping for air. He recounted observing Damon looking around the room at him and his parents. In the 911 call, Darlie can be heard repeatedly urging Damon to hold on. A paramedic later confirmed that upon his arrival, and after waiting for 2 minutes for officers to clear the scene, Damon was still barely clinging to life. Darlie and Damon were both attended to by paramedics and rushed to the hospital. Tragically, Damon succumbed to his injuries while in the care of the paramedics. However, Darlie survived and underwent exploratory surgery for her neck wound at Baylor University Medical Center. During the surgery, doctors discovered that her neck wound had come dangerously close, within 2 millimeters, to her carotid artery. Had the artery been severed, the injury would have proved fatal within minutes. Meanwhile, at the Routier residence, police continued their search for evidence. They lifted fingerprints from various areas and took photographs. These photographs, entered as exhibits during the trial, revealed that many objects within the home had been disturbed. Testifying officers, including Officer Main, were uncertain about which officer had handled specific items. For instance, the phone was captured in various positions in photographs, indicating it had been moved. Similarly, a lamp in the living room appeared to have been rearranged, and a vacuum cleaner was depicted in different positions within the kitchen area. Family files were observed shifted from one spot to another, placed onto one of the couches, while a pillow was seen repositioned. Minimal effort was made to preserve the integrity of the crime scene, evident from the photographs where objects had been moved, sometimes repeatedly. Consequently, the photos provided limited valuable information as crucial elements of the scene were altered. One of the investigators who examined the scene inside the Routier residence was James Cron. Having previously served in the Dallas Sheriff's Department, he was called upon by the Rowlett Police Department to aid in analyzing the crime scene. Cron arrived at approximately 5:45 in the morning. Testifying during the trial, Cron recounted conducting a visual inspection of the evidence by walking through the home. He acknowledged that after scrutinizing the scene for 20 to 30 minutes, he remarked, "That looks to me like there was no intruder here." Outside the Routier residence, officers conducted a search and discovered a sock lying near a trash can, approximately 2 houses away. The sock was photographed and retrieved as evidence. Subsequent analysis revealed the presence of blood from both Devon and Damon on the sock. During the trial, Damon Routier testified that the sock belonged to him and explained that the family maintained a pile of old socks in the utility room. Importantly, there was no blood found around the sock or leading to its location. This detail holds significance in the case, and further examination may shed light on its implications. Throughout their investigation, several police officers testified that they suspected Darlie of committing the crime and staging an attack on herself to conceal it. This belief persisted despite the severity of her own injuries, which came dangerously close to being fatal. Notably, Jimmy Patterson, the lead detective, covertly placed a recording device at the boys' gravesite in hopes of capturing Darlie confessing to the crime. When questioned about these actions during the trial, Patterson invoked the Fifth Amendment, exercising his right against self-incrimination. In the early hours of June 6th, Darlie underwent surgery. Shortly after regaining consciousness from the procedure and receiving Demerol and Phenergan for pain relief, she was interrogated by detectives. Despite her condition and the influence of strong pain medication, Darlie willingly answered their questions and cooperated with the investigation. However, the appropriateness of questioning a woman who had just undergone surgery and was under the effects of potent pain medication remains unclear. Darlie was discharged from the hospital on the 8th. Following her release, the police transported her directly from the hospital to the funeral home. David Rogers, the pastor of Shepherd's Heart Fellowship Church, testified that he had been asked to officiate the burial service for Devon and Damon. On the 8th, he awaited the arrival of Darlie and Darren at the funeral home. Rogers recalled the following: "Well, they said they picked her up at the hospital and brought her there for the viewing, although there was a long delay because they had taken her by the police station. Evidently, there had been several hours of questioning, so we were there for quite a long time waiting." The pastor testified that he had witnessed numerous individuals grieving the loss of loved ones, including mothers who had tragically lost children. He affirmed that Darlie exhibited what he deemed as appropriate grieving behavior. Furthermore, he remarked, "I observed a mother who was grieving and heartbroken and anguishing over the loss of her children." On the 14th, which was a Friday, a prayer service was conducted for the boys at the gravesite. The atmosphere of the service was solemn and reflective. Darlie's aunt, Sherry Moses, provided testimony regarding the prayer service. She remained in Texas for a week before returning to Pennsylvania. After the service, the family organized a birthday celebration for Devon. Sherry said during the trial that Devon had been eagerly anticipating his upcoming 7th birthday when the tragedy occurred. Despite the sorrowful circumstances, the family wished to honor Devon's memory by hosting the party he had been looking forward to. Dana, Darlie's younger sister, brought silly string to the party, and the family collectively agreed to put on a cheerful demeanor for the sake of those in attendance. Video footage of the birthday celebration was presented as evidence during the trial.
She was innocent and not guilty.
But Charlie says the jurors kept playing this tape and challenging his notion that an innocent woman could act this way.
She wasn't grieving, spraying the silly string and gnawing on that chewing gum.
What the jury didn't see was this surveillance video of Darlie. Police had secretly taped the gravesite for hours that day. There was weeping, praying, preaching.
Father made this day a birthday be a day of rejoicing.
There was Darlie's sister. The silly string was her idea. The dead boys had loved it.
I got you some snaps with some silly string. Okay?
But this video was not okay. There were questions about its legality, and when the trial judge raised them, there was a heated argument in the courtroom.
The 2 police officers pled the Fifth Amendment.
Stephen Cooper is one of Darlie's new attorneys. Wait a minute, you're saying that the police officers...
Lead investigator in this case pled the Fifth Amendment and
About
refused...
the videotape that the police department had made?
Correct.
Why did he do that?
He was persuaded that he was exposed to criminal prosecution for his acts.
And the video was never entered into evidence. The police were not charged. So the sad Darlie was never seen by the jury, and the bad Darlie got big play.
He wanted to be 7. I did the only thing I knew to do to honor him and give him those wishes because he wasn't here anymore. But how do you know what you're going to do when you lose 2 children? How do you know how you're going to act? And who's to say there's a rule book to grieving? Who's to say if you don't follow these guidelines that makes you a bad parent or that makes you a murderer?
Remarkably, recordings from the wiretap placed at the gravesite also captured the preceding prayer service, yet the defense chose not to request its admission into evidence. This decision proved detrimental to Darlie's assertion of innocence. Jurors repeatedly watched the video of the birthday party, incorrectly believing that Darlie was rejoicing in the wake of her child's death. One juror, Charlie Samford, disclosed on a television program that the jury viewed the video 8 times. However, Samford has since revised his stance on Darlie's guilt, now asserting her innocence.
They're up in heaven, and they're up there having the biggest birthday party that we could ever imagine.
Darly Routier, who suffered stab wounds in the attack, says she won't rest until her boy's killer is caught.
We don't know whether we're coming or going, you know? And he's free. He's free to do whatever he wants. But I know that he's not going to be free for long, and I feel it.
My name is Danelle. I am Darly Routier's baby sister. Darly Routier was somebody broke into her house June 6th, 1996, killed her 2 boys and tried to kill her. She was arrested 12 days later and then wrongfully convicted of this terrible crime. The oldest boy, Devon, was fixing to have a birthday, and we chose to celebrate his birthday on the date of his birthday, and it was at a gravesite, and a television show news crew showed up and they videotaped it, and then they posted it or published it on their news channels, and national media took over from there. And it apparently was not a good look. Like everybody, I would say not everybody, but a large amount of the very vocal crowd was awfully mean to us regarding that. So here's my thing. Here's what I'm thinking. It was an act of love. It was an attempt to honor the boys and fulfill a promise that they could have silly string. And it was something that was innocent on our part. It's not abnormal for people to celebrate their loved ones, and in different cultures they do that in different ways. We had a birthday party. It was his birthday, and it was beautiful, and he would have loved it, and Damon would have loved it, and it was awesome. In all honesty, it was what a 7-year-old boy would have wanted for his birthday party to be like. Silly string, balloons, presents, his friends. It didn't feel wrong.
During an interview, Mulder, Darlie's defense attorney, was questioned about why he didn't submit the footage of the prayer service into evidence, particularly since it depicted the family, including Darlie, grieving in what he described as an appropriate manner. Mulder admitted, "I didn't really have any idea at the time that the silly string incident would play such a major part with the jurors." However, Samford expressed that viewing the footage of the prayer service might have influenced his and other jurors' perspectives. He stated, "If we had seen the other tape, it most likely would have." On June 18, Darlie was arrested by the police on 2 counts of capital murder. Subsequently, she was indicted by a grand jury on 2 counts of murder. However, the prosecution opted to pursue charges specifically related to her youngest child, Damon. Given his tender age at the time of the crime, this decision enabled the prosecution to pursue the death penalty. The trial lasted a month. The first witness for the state, Dr. Joni McLean of the medical examiner's office, was introduced at the start of the proceedings. The 2 defense wounds on Damon's body, which showed that he had fought his attacker before passing away, were described by Dr. McLean. Coroner Janice Townsend Parchman discussed how Darlie's wounds were self-inflicted, implying that the children's vicious wounds were different from her hesitation wounds. As the first policeman to arrive on the scene on June 6, Officer Waddell testified about the carnage he saw when he entered the Routiers' house. Photographs from the crime scene, which described the aftermath of the violence, were shown to the jury. After this dramatic play, paramedic Jack Colby gave a heartbreaking account of how he cared for young Damon and witnessed his last gasp for oxygen through bloodied, sliced lungs, regardless of any life-saving measures. Darlie Lynn Routier's witness presentations concluded during the first week on a very bad note. After reading Colby's detailed account, colleague paramedic Larry Byford, who treated her in the ambulance en route to the hospital, asserted that she never inquired about her children's health once during the entire journey. In spite of the defense's efforts to resist, the prosecution tore the accused apart over the course of the following few weeks. 2 Rowlett police officers kicked off the second week of the prosecution's assault. Officer David Maines talked about some of the evidence recovered from the crime scene, which included a piece of white carpet that had Damon's bloodied handprint on it, and fingerprint expert Charles Hamilton essentially told the jury that the only prints found at the scene were those of Darlie and her 2 children. Next, investigator James Cron described his meticulous and scientifically based search for evidence of a potential pursuer's flight through the utility hall and garage of the Routier residence. The investigation turned up no signs of an intruder. He summarized by saying, "I initially believed that someone in the family had arranged the scene and committed the murders. My level of conviction increased as I dug more into my research." Expert in trace evidence Charles Lynch took the stand. Lynch, a Southwestern Institute of Forensic Sciences analyst, endorsed Cron's assertions. He said that it was not conceivable for an intruder to have fled the crime scene without spilling blood. The prosecution then called blood expert Tom Bevel, who demonstrated the velocity and direction of the blood found on Darlie's nightgown to further drive home his argument for the benefit of the court. According to his conclusions, she was performing numerous upswing actions or stabbing and slicing motions when her son's blood was discovered on the nightshirt. After weeks of relevant testimony, the FBI's special agent Al Brantley was the most important of them all and the state's last witness. He began by listing the reasons he would not have taken down the screen, but rather removed it, in that the Routier's house, high fence and cul-de-sac location would have deterred a rapist or thief. He talked about motivation. If a thief had made a call, Darlie's jewelry, which was readily seen, would have been seized. In addition, as Darlie had mentioned, a woman attacked by a sexual offender would not have killed her children. Instead, they would have used them as leverage to force her to comply. Speaking on the brutality inflicted on the young victims, he postulated that the attack was carried out of intense rage and was personal in nature. In closing, Brantley said, "Someone who knew those children very well murdered them." Using what little they had, Doug Mulder and his team attempted to refute and offset the death penalty sufficient evidence that prosecutor Greg Davis had supplied. Friends, neighbors, and family who had known Darlie for years and could attest to her character led the defense's lineup of witnesses. The funeral director, Reverend David Rogers, believed Darlie was grieving appropriately. Kara Byford, a friend, talked about Darlie's generosity and how, following the murders, Darlie came to her for comfort because she had lost a 4-month-old boy years earlier. Karen Neal, the neighbor next door, believed that Darlie's sadness was genuine and not staged, despite what the prosecution attempted to portray. Damon Routier attracted attention by testifying in the witness box, where he acknowledged that financial difficulties had caused family issues, but he also indicated that his wife was really saddened by the loss of their boys. Recalling the morning of the murder and his attempts to revive Damon, he gulped back tears. "Oh my God. Darlie was rushing back and forth, getting wet towels. He's dead, oh my God. I let out 3 or 4 blows. She had had enough of his trying to stuff his chest gaps together. Within 3 minutes, I knew he was dead. Darlie tried to talk Officer Waddell into going to the garage after I yelled at him. We were all three stunned. Darlie's throat wounds or hesitation wounds had played a significant role in the prosecution's case. However, Dr. Vincent DiMaio, a forensic pathology professor and Bexar County medical examiner, attempted to cast doubt on the theory that the woman's wounds were surface and self-inflicted. He said that the cut on her throat had sliced just 2 millimeters from the carotid artery. Furthermore, he determined that the marks on her arms were caused by blunt trauma rather than self-harm. Darlie's inconsistent testimony both before and after her arrest had been heavily relied upon by the prosecution. Thus, lawyer Mulder required a credible witness to explain, in medical terms, how a defendant who has experienced psychological stress frequently experiences lapses in memory. Dr. Lissa Clayton, a forensic psychologist, was the witness he found. The homicidal mentality has undergone extensive work by the specialist. Darlie had been interviewed by Dr. Clayton, who thought her to be innocent because Darlie had the typical blackout and confused memory signs of someone who had experienced trauma and was compelled to provide a detailed account of what happened. The accused, Darlie Lynn Routier, was a surprise witness for the defense on January 29, and it turned out to be a poor decision for the defense as well. Mulder attempted to dissuade his client from testifying, arguing that she would be subjected to a merciless prosecution team's cross-examination that might turn any statement she made into mincemeat. Darlie persisted, though. She was eventually found guilty and sentenced to death. Now, personally, I'm not very sure what to believe. If you look at the evidence and how they were presented at trial, it does seem like she's guilty. It's hard to accept that a mother would be capable of doing this, but we already know, we've seen and heard worse. However, there are things that make me wonder if really all sides of the story were thoroughly researched. The jury might not have had access to the whole transcript of the court proceedings or images of Darlie's bruises on her arms, which would have provided conclusive evidence that she fought off an intruder. After further inspection, it was discovered that the transcript had 33,000 mistakes and omissions. The audio tapes were also incomplete. One juror came out and said he had been coerced by his peers to cast a guilty vote. He stated that he never saw the previously mentioned pictures and that the jury was not given the police surveillance footage of Devon's birthday celebration at the grave, which revealed Darlie and her family to be in deep mourning over the children. On the Routier kitchen counter, a latent bloody fingerprint was discovered. 2 experts in fingerprints from the New York City Police Department claim that the print does not match either Darlie or Darren, which adds support to the intruder idea.
85A through 85J in the Darly Routier case are all unidentified fingerprints found in the direct crime scene. Not upstairs, not in Darlie's bedroom, not anywhere else in the crime scene. Between the coffee table, the credenza behind the couch, the door to the utility room, the window that the intruder exited out of. Every single one of those fingerprints, 85A through 85J, are unidentified, unknown fingerprints.
In order to profit from an insurance scam, Damon Routier also acknowledged that he had searched for someone to break into the Routier family's house. However, he had intended for the break-in to take place when the family was away. I want to believe she didn't do this because I can't imagine what those 2 little boys felt if she actually hurt them. The one person in this world that is supposed to love you and protect you no matter what is your mom. Back in 2021, additional DNA tests were ordered for Darlie's case. A bloodied knife and hairs on it, Routier's shirt, blankets and pillowcases discovered at the scene, pants worn by Routier and the kids, fingernail clippings from the kids, and the sock that was discovered distant from the murder scene will all be tested. Many of the items being sent for analysis have never undergone DNA testing in this case. It's been a long time since the testing began, but this is the last update on the case. I'm not sure why this is taking so long, but it is a bit frustrating, I'm not gonna lie. What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comment section. See you next time. Bye bye.